I heard a rumor about something that you all did many years ago, and I'm very interested to know if it's true. Did things pan out the way you anticipated it would?
Much better, I suppose. Nobody thought about it. Long term has to be a series of short term. Like in the case of Zomato, when we bought, there were no earnings. But we knew that the potential was huge, and what he was saying made a lot of sense.
I am right now betting on Elon Musk. I don't care what his car is doing. I think it's worth it to bet a little bit. But hero है. ऐसे hero India में कम मिले हैं.
Do you think India will produce an Elon Musk ever?
No.
Why is that?
I visited one Calcutta-based company, and they had recently done a GDR of $300 million. GDR. Those times they were the GDRs.
Global depositories. Yeah.
So they had acquired one other company, international company, for 330 million pounds. They had done a 300 million pound GDR. Right? And I remember calling Samir afterwards because the management told. So I said, how does it make sense to buy this dead company for 330 million pounds? So he told me, no, we did pay 330 million pounds. We just paid 30 million pounds. What? He said, yeah, 300 million you paid. What does it mean? I said, better sell this to
No, that way there's another one. This company went to zero. What is it called? EduComp.
Achha.
तो उस पे क्या वो बंदा ही बता रहा था कि खराब है. Because what happened? No, he was not saying that. They were just jokers. So the guy said, we sell hardware plus the software or whatever the thing, the package which goes for the education, but they also sell you the computer and the projector in the class. So I said कि margin कितना बनता है? तो कहते हैं सॉफ्टवेयर में 15% और हार्डवेयर में 5%, तो टोटल 20% बनता है. Okay, thank you very much. So now you know कि don't know anything, man. You're adding the two margins. So that was the thing that many said.
Yeah, I remember once I was at a conference. I met the manager of a company. It was me and one other analyst, as in from some other fund. And he knew that guy very well, because at the end he winks and he's like, boss, le. I walked out, I said, never. I wish I bought dividend 30x after that. We're happy to partner with our friends at mProfit to help you manage and track your investments. mProfit is a technology platform that enables you to consolidate all your investments in one place across different asset classes and brokers. It provides clear visibility into your portfolio, asset allocation, and investment performance. Use the code KRISHKOTHARI20 to get a great deal when you sign up for mProfit. You can find the link in the description below. There are two features that I find particularly useful. First is the XIRR feature to track true absolute and relative performance over time. And second, seeing how investments across different family members and the family as a whole are performing. We had Atik Shah, co-founder of mProfit, on the podcast recently. I highly recommend checking out that conversation to better understand how mProfit can help you. Hi, welcome to the Krish Kothari Show. My guests today are Samir Arora and Dinshaw Irani of Helios Capital. We're going to talk about the incredible journeys both have had in the stock market and amazing stories from that time. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. A lot of work goes into these videos, so please do like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It really does help us. Also, let us know in the comments what you think of our videos. It helps us understand what topics are of interest to you. You can now find us and many other interesting channels on the Zerodha Media Network. Samir, Dinshaw, thank you so much for coming on. And in fact, it's actually the first time I can say thank you for coming back. It's fantastic having both of you on.
The first guys to come back.
Yeah, literally the first people to come on. And I'm so happy to have both of you together. And, I was seeing, previous interviews of both of you, and sort of you can endlessly see the same broad questions coming towards you. So I thought, rather than talking about stocks and what do you think of the market today, I wanted to actually hear more stories from both your careers and things that you have seen in the market. Please make it as dramatic as you like. I'm happy to hear any of them. But I actually want to start using what's happening in recent times as a context for a larger question. So as much fun as it is seeing your net worth erode in front of your eyes over the last few days, I'm trying to understand that in your experience, when you've seen periods like this, short or long, what has been the best way to cope with it? Is it sometimes better to just close your eyes and go to sleep?
First of all, there has been no erosion this time. because 1-2%, because the whole market has fallen only 5-6%. And at least I manage a long short fund, which is actually up in this month. So there's no erosion. Erosion is what happened in 2008, when not only the market fell a lot, but we believed that it should not fall. And we fought the market for a long time, like first 3, 4, 5 months, saying India is not affected. We don't have exposure to any company which has exposure to Lehman Brothers or subprime and all that. So that was a time when it was bad. But for whatever angle now, I have stopped bothering about it affecting net worth. Because when it went up a lot in 2007, I did not change my life or think that that is my net worth. In the end, when somebody at home says, "Arey, itne paise ban gaye, main kaun se bane? Humne to kuch becha hi nahi hai, humne kya pata?" So the point is, if you little bit only distant, you don't have to totally distant, then this thing matters less. But I think this is also because over the years you lose this thing. For example, personally you invest in the beginning thousands of rupees or maybe 5-10,000. But for the fund, you're investing millions and then tens of millions. And in 2007, maybe 100 million. So the numbers also lose their meaning. The only thing I remember is percentage, not even the level per se itself.
Right.
And a year like 2008 teaches you that you got to go back to your basics. Because I remember Samir telling us that you guys never told me, we were the analysts for him, right? You guys never told me to sell. We said, how can we tell you to sell? Because the fundamentals were pretty strong. So what do we do? So we used to go back there and work on that. So.
But over time, it's very difficult. And one thing you learn in it is that it's not only fundamentals. That if the world is bad, then beyond a point, it is not enough to say that we are not bad. Because if the world comes down, it will pull you down because of association as a market. You might be Indian market, they are that market, but in the end, they're all financial market and flows are there. That's why now, I used to collect bulls before. Now, recently I haven't bought many, but generally I collect bulls and bears.
Pray to all the gods.
No, not that way. Because when I was collecting bulls, you yourself become very bullish. But I have maybe 30-40 bulls, but now I have 7-8 bears also. Previously, I would think, how can I own a bear? Or why can I buy a bear? Why should I spend money to buy like a Dom bear or a Swarovski bear or something? Now I buy.
So it's interesting hearing about sort of going back in past. And I heard a rumor about something that you all did many, many years ago. And I'm very interested to know if it's true. Is it true that at one point you, and of course when I say you, I mean the fund, owned 10% of Trent?
Yeah, we used to own 9% of Trent or something. Yeah, near 10.
Yeah.
And this was in Alliance days.
Right,
and
correct.
Dinshaw was also with me in Alliance.
Correct.
So we used to meet the current chairman of Tata Trust, the new chairman.
And so tell me, so going back, this was what year was this roughly?
This would have been 2001 to 3. In 3 we left Alliance.
Right. So tell me, going back 20 years, did you, at that time when you were thinking about the company and the business, and now when you look at it 20 years later, did things pan out the way you anticipated it would?
Much better, I suppose.
Nobody thought about it.
So the whole thing was that I used to cover retail in Korea and stuff like that, emerging Asia basically. That's what the mandate was in Alliance. And then we saw this Trent and Pantaloon also. Actually, we used to
own 5% of Pantaloon.
Pantaloon also. And Pantaloon went very well during
and for this 5% Pantaloon, we spent $1.5 million.
Yeah. So we used to always tell Samir that, look, retail is doing very well there. It's emerging Asia. So why shouldn't we doing well out here? And obviously these guys are brand owners. They have their own private labels, which was not the case there, right? So that is what excites.
So I remember one angle that in those days there was this Korean company, kya naam tha? Shinsegae. Okay. So Shinsegae was valued at some $2 billion, and they had 60 stores. Okay, so we said, okay, Mota Mati, each store is being valued at $30 million, and hamari puri company, not Trent, Pantaloon.
Right.
Pantaloon was being valued at $30 million, the whole company. Okay. I don't forget how many stores I have. वो चला एक store के बराबर है. So चलो 5% ले लो, देखी जाएगी. So Trent, what was the valuation? I forget, but maybe it was $150 million.
Yeah, around that much.
Yeah. So उसमें थोड़े ज़्यादा लगाए होंगे. But we used to go to West Side and say कि 9% हमारा है, हमारा side कर दो. And we used to meet Mr. Noel Tata at that time. He was really a simple guy, come with pens in his pocket and tell us that their strategy is that for 500 rupees, you should get 2 items. That was his daughter had told him that
she can afford
not she can afford that. But bottom line is that 500 you should get 2 items.
Yeah.
So it was value oriented, this, that. Anyway, after that, we left Alliance and the fund was sold to Birla. So we don't know what they did with it, whether they ran with it or not. But if they had kept it today, then of course, but most probably not.
Talking about this idea that you buy a company and sometimes the optionalities are even, you yourself are oblivious to the optionalities.
Even the management doesn't know.
Correct. Exactly. It's like Roger Federer when he first picked up a racket, didn't know he'd be Roger Federer, right? So what I want to understand
I think he knew he's Roger Federer. He didn't know whether he'll be a tennis.
He didn't know we know he's Roger Federer, I guess.
Whether we'll ever know.
Yeah. So really my question is that both for companies and individual promoters or CEOs or whatever, at what stage can you finally say this really is a star? There is something out of the ordinary about this company or this person?
We
never say.
So as I said, by the way, for us, that's our philosophy, by the way, that long term has to be a series of short terms. So even when you meet a management and you ask them about, say, current year or current quarter, they'll know exactly what they're doing. But the moment you go beyond that, 2, 3 years and 4 years, they'll be guessing all the way around. Now, I am an outsider, that guy's an insider, and still he's making a guess. So you can imagine how wrong I can go.
But why should we make that view that you are a long-term hero? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's a liquid market. We are not selling. If you are doing well, we are very happy. But if you're not doing well, at that time, we can evaluate and we'll be wrong. That we think you are still good and the stock is still good and it doesn't do well. But why should we say today that you are a star for life? What will I do extra? Because when these companies are getting their results every quarter, we are still going to analyze them. If they have some regulatory issue, we are still going to say yes or no. If they get raided, if they get indicted, something happens. What is my plus point in saying ahead of time that you are a star for life? No need.
And so let's talk about actually individual people running companies, right? That in hindsight, we always say, oh, what a great decision, what a great promoter, CEO, whatever. Without taking names and getting into people that you may have necessarily thought of in that sense. Can you tell me either anecdotes or stories from your experiences when interacting with such people where something in your conversation or in your study of that person led you to believe that maybe even if the business were not that great, but this guy can make it happen? Has that ever been the case, that the jockey was so good that you're willing to bet on an inferior, or not inferior, but a not so great horse?
I am right now betting only because I read the book on Elon Musk. I don't care what his car is doing. I think it's worth it to bet a little bit. But hero है. ऐसे hero India में कम मिले हैं कि ऐसे blind खेल लो.
You think India will produce an Elon Musk ever?
No.
Why is that?
Because that kind of risk taking we don't have. That he was about to go bankrupt and he's still trying to send his third rocket round up or whatever. No, what I'm saying is there you're genuinely saying doesn't matter, yaar, it's worth 1-2% of our portfolio. करने दो बेचारे को जो करता है वो हमने इंडिया में नहीं ढूंढा ऐसा. But I can tell you other way around that when a company is doing well, that promoter will tell you anything and you'll say, what a great thing. So let me tell you. So HDFC Bank was doing well forever. So when you meet, you have to meet, you can read also. Aditya Puri would say, I leave at 5 p.m. I don't carry a mobile and I am home. So we say, yeah, great. Now there's this guy, Starbucks, that Indian guy. Why has he been fired? Because he leaves office at 5 p.m. Now, because I don't know about the call part or whether he has a mobile. What I mean is, जब चल रहा है तो every line you say, इसकी भैया हीरो क्या बात करिए. So what I'm saying is ये ऐसे नहीं होता. इसलिए अब हमें समझ आ गई है. There is no one this thing.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk, not because I met Elon Musk, but because उसकी book है. अब इंडिया वाले के ऊपर book लिखो तो हम भी बोले हाँ यार every line. Because in India there are no books on these people and you will never know them so deeply.
That we don't want to also actually.
Yeah.
That one is a different, just.
But has in your experience, has it ever been that it's very good to not know them at that level, because sometimes it affects your own judgment.
Always. That's always been the case. So what we realized earlier on in our careers was that once you get closer to a promoter, you get biased. And that's why you always have a problem selling a stock. You know something's wrong, but then you end up calling the guy and asking him what went wrong. I mean, and he'll give you some explanation. Obviously, not tell you that I made a mistake and my company's in a mess.
Right.
So it's better to stay away, take a very studied call.
In 20 years, I would not have had a meal with a promoter in the evening alone, ever.
And consciously done that.
Yeah. Basically, I don't react when somebody is calling. Basically, because wherever we have really lost big money is because we knew the promoter. Otherwise, you say no need to ask, sell it off.
I remember the first time I joined Alliance, the first thing is that this is exactly what he told me. That any promoter who hugs you and greets you and tells you to come home for dinner, avoid. Don't ever buy a stock.
Because the thing is, you will get influenced by the fact that he's your friend, and then on a bad day, he may also still believe. It's not that he's telling a lie sometimes. He might believe that my case will be okay, my story will be okay. But most of the time, there is no need. It's obvious to you. I have to ask him. You don't want to sell. And you realize there's no need to sell and move on, man.
And
the thing is, these people get very excited here that the management has, we owe it to the management in some sense. That is only if you give me in a IPO, in some anchor, where you had a choice. If I am buying on the screen, then I will sell on the screen. I don't need to.
And has it required a lot of time to build that sort of clinical approach, or is it something that inherently came to both of you?
I don't know. To me, it came in 90s only. So we used to have this company where we used to own 9-10% of the company, and the company did very well. It went up basically 100 times while I was holding it. Okay, the name everybody knows, but I'm not repeating it because everybody knows which 100 bagger I talk about. And then we were selling the stock, and he said, "Arey, you are selling my stock." No, you went 100 times. So I said, in these I was in Alliance. In these multinational companies, they hire so many analysts, and all these analysts have ratings. And if they rate it too, I can do nothing. What to do with all these analysts? So that Bali keeps saying. So the point is, and if you come to my office in Singapore, I have all these Ganesh and a few other gods. And on that, which you can see on TV also, there are 3 letters, NAV. People buy their own initials. You get all these letters, those big letters, which you put on your table. I bought NAV. That is my boss. That is my God. In addition to the God.
Correct. And so, you said you were talking about how owning something and riding it from X to 100X. How difficult is that? I mean, I'm sure at 2X, 4X, 8X, 16X, at every time you must be thinking, we need to get out and take the money home.
We trip every day, literally. Because first of all, we were in a mutual fund where the limit is only you can own 10%. And this had become 10 within the first few percent move only. So literally for every day we sold, but we still had 8-10% when it crashed 30-40%.
Right.
So the last bit, if somebody came 10 days before the crash, which was basically March 2000, then he will say, "Arey, you lost." I say, "I've made," but that is the way this business works. Yeah. But every stock we've had to sell or we sell. Like we made in Bajaj Finance 43 times. But in the end, our weight was still 4-5% only, no? Otherwise, we start with 2-2.5%. Otherwise, whatever the rest of the market may have done, if it goes up 43 times, it would have made it 10-12% of the fund. But we won't let it go there because there are new guys coming in. So that way, we never make on the full portfolio the percentage that we talk about.
Right.
It is from the first purchase to the last sale. Because, not in Z because it happened very fast. But in some of these which happen over 10 years, it's not that I never bought it again.
Of course.
The new money would come, you'll buy. But I still say I made so much. But actually I didn't make so much like that. Because some you may have bought 6 months before you turned bearish.
Right.
But we're talking when we bought and never sold.
Yeah.
And the last sale. So that...
Yeah, but you are in some sense at the mercy of mechanics of running a fund and regulations.
No, it's okay. But by the way, it's not bad. Because if I had not sold along the way, suddenly in the end it fell 40-30% in 1 month. Anyway, that it could not have been held in a fund if it had become so much.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think there's anything clearly wrong that I was not allowed to hold. In the end, many times I should not have held so much.
Right.
And the system forced you to sell. It's okay. That's the way this works.
And what have you all learned about selling? Because everyone, it's very easy to constantly talk about how to buy and which stocks are good and which stocks are bad. But what have you learned about being as good at selling as you are at buying?
So that's very disciplined in our case. We always say that whenever the fundamentals are not keeping pace with the price, either the price has to correct or the fundamentals will move up, right? If that is not going to happen.
Explain that category 1.
Okay, so basically, suppose the earnings growth is in mid-single digits, yeah, and the price growth is every year is like 25-30% odd, right? You can hold it for a year or two, but beyond that, you know that the earnings growth is not picking up. I mean, if you realize that the earnings growth are not going to pick up, there's no way you can justify those expanded multiples.
Basically, we don't want for regular companies to make. We want to make, but we don't want to hold beyond that. The money was made by higher and higher PE. It should come from earnings. That is why it has been easier to hold HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank. Now we don't own Kotak, but over 20-25 years, because the earnings and the stock price movement would be similar. Some 20-25% जब होता था वो 25 होता था, वो 20 हो गया, वो 20 हो गया, which is okay. जब वो 15 हो गया, 15 भी ठीक है. अब नहीं है, because now, but still we hold it. But I'm saying that is easiest to hold. What is difficult to hold in the well-known companies is that earnings are growing 15%. And the stock price, say, first year grows 30, ठीक, part of life, we are happy. Then again 30. It happened in so many of these consumer type companies that the earnings growth is 10 to 15% and stock price growth is 25 to 30% for 2-3 years.
Yeah. There's no choice but to take your money off the table.
We will sell means we will trim, reduce. Basically, that is the source for any new thing. It doesn't have to be sold in one clinical day also.
So any new idea you get, this is your
that is the way you'll get. Yeah. And main thing is that you do it 10 times, you will be right 8 times. Once or twice it will continue to do well, let it do well. What to do? Because we don't know which place it won't. In which one it will do well. Mostly they will not do well.
Right. And so I actually kind of spoke about this with both of you in our previous conversations, and I want to just talk about it a little more. So when you're looking at a company, so you look at conference calls, you may meet them at a conference, all of that. How easy or difficult is it to not be swayed by someone who is a very good, I don't want to say salesman because it sort of makes them sound worse than they are, but someone who and like you said, they may believe it. It's not that they're lying to you. They themselves believe they're going to grow 50% for the next 10 years. So how, does it obviously just boils down to you studying the company, or is there something more you can do to protect yourself from that?
So basically, as we call it, more sizzled in the steak. So you've got to, as I said, go back to basics.
Yeah.
Look at what he's saying. Maybe that stories may pan out at some stage, right? But you got to do your working. You got to go back to your work, basically your worksheet, and see, okay, this is what he said. Is it possible for him to do what he's saying? Work those numbers out. If they're making sense to you, then go and buy, because you're talking about a future. Like in the case of Zomato, when we bought, there were no earnings, right? But we knew that the potential was huge and what he was saying made a lot of sense. And that's when he got the story right.
So the thing is, you may not get the 50% right, but if it looks that it can grow at a high rate, doesn't matter if he says 50 and you believe 40, koi farak nahi pad raha. But mostly, if somebody says with confidence, it helps. Because he will have to then give you, he won't say, I won't tell you why. He will give you his story also, na?
Right.
So basically, you don't have to create your story. You are saying his story makes sense or not. It's not that you have to give a counter story.
Right.
So, but I'm saying that if somebody says it with confidence, and if he's a good salesman, it is possible that we also buy into it, because he will have some logic.
Correct.
That doesn't make sense.
Unless his logic is so off for us, which is off for us if somebody talks about, so there are many we don't believe, by the way. So there are all these commodity type, these solar guys. If I can see that this sector does not exist in the world, that nobody has made money, don't tell me. For example, when all these middle class and money, what is it called? Premium guys. So they started all these अपना holiday home, अपना holiday क्या कहते हैं, time share, ये अपना you know which company. Then we got these gym वाली companies. कि okay, there's that whatever, you remember the name, Bombay वाला gym वाला. Now all these, you may say what you want, it makes perfect sense. Young people will go to gym, family people will go to holiday resort. But हमने कहा यार आज तक world में कोई नहीं मिला. Mostly we have not bought.
Correct.
We don't want the first time ever that has been bought in India or a regular business.
Correct.
So those kind of things. But otherwise, that guy would make sense if you were not into this comparison with the world. You'll say so many people are coming of age. They are becoming 18 years. There is fitness, this thing. But we say ये model चलता नहीं है कहीं पे, because the hard selling is so much in both these businesses. After that, there's a regret.
Correct.
Within 5 days of doing either.
On Jan 5th.
And the other one also, either Diwali पे लेते हो holiday. तो ये चले नहीं है यहाँ पे भी, but world में भी नहीं चले. If the thing is working in the world, then that also makes it easier कि maybe you are the first one. So
Correct.
those kind we have not bought where it made some logic. But if the world has done it and it looks logical कि हाँ, for example, we totally believed in the food delivery. So people said there is 20% premium, ये वो. मैं कहा नहीं भाई, आपका एवरेज ऑर्डर है 500 रुपीज, 420 रुपीज, आप 60-70 रुपए दे रहे हो. अब आप रोते रहोगे आई एम गिविंग 60 रुपीज. what do you get? You don't have to go out.
Correct.
You don't have to see parking. You don't have to see pollution. You don't have to see traffic jam. And you can watch Netflix for 50-60 rupees going and coming.
Correct.
Because that you will have to go and come back.
Correct.
Okay. तो मैं कहा 50 रुपए लोग छोड़ देंगे इस चीज के लिए कि चलो यार तंग मत करो. So you have to buy into the logic that this can be good growth here relative to somewhere else or whatever.
And so, because you mentioned Zomato, so I'm going back to when it was roughly $40 and seemed like they could do nothing right? And then the whole Blinqit, event happened, and I remember that time there were so many people questioning it. There was corporate governance issues.
There was no corporate governance because we bought it at 52. There was no corporate governance. The story they made was that the head of personnel or co-founder, her husband is the owner.
Correct.
So मैं कहा, so why will Mr. Goyal, who's not the husband or the wife, will say, doesn't matter, just because my colleague or co-founder's husband is there, let me give him a premium. क्या logic बनी इस बात की? But their logic was the same, that the store, the Kirana guy, sorry, they say we are not competing with Kirana. No, we are not competing. But generally, the competitor is open 10 hours a day. You are open 20 hours a day. So for outside that 10 hours, so there is no competition.
Correct.
Second thing is, the break evens are very low in the sense that normally these guys make, the retailer guy makes 14-15% gross margin. तो आपको 300-400 rupees में आपके 50-60 रुपए बन गए, आप उसको उसमें दे दो to give delivery when it was free.
Right.
But at some point you will order more and more, and that was the big picture logic, that you are not really subsidizing anybody. Maybe you are in the beginning, but normally you are not. Even a 300-400 rupee order, you are okay. And then you are getting bulk buying.
Correct.
Then once in a while, which they haven't done, but the others are doing, you can stock private label. You can sell these switches and like Amazon basic equivalent.
Correct.
Correct. So all these random things you can sell. You are not on the ground floor. You are on some 5th floor of some dark building. So I thought it was very obvious. And
Are you at all surprised by the scale of success I'm not talking specifically on Blinqit or quick commerce generally?
Every stock that we have owned and which has worked, we have been surprised by this thing, because suddenly these things pick up. Not only this, we had this Varun beverage. Now, why have we made 10 times from 19? The stock actually is up 25 times from its IPO.
Yeah, 16, 17, I think. No, as in
IPO,
no, I'm saying as in 16, as in
IPO
your
was in 17 or something.
Yeah.
And it's up 25 times, but we bought it in 19.
Right.
Suddenly, why is it growing? Who the hell knows? But it was good when we bought it. All the things which work well by definition, the move up will be fast in the beginning. And then you don't want too many of these HDFC bank type, which 5 years we are paying for our bullishness.
But that's a funny thing, right? Like I'm trying to think in I mean, so just to clarify, everybody, all three of us are involved in HDFC Bank in some way. So everyone's, whether they like it or not, they've sort of hung on to this. But when you see something like this, right, something that has done so well for so many years, is it possible, like, I mean, unless you genuinely have a crystal ball in front of you, how do you get, like, I'm saying going back in 2019, how could anybody sell HDFC Bank at that point? I'm saying you're a large mutual fund or a large PMS or something. And I'm not talking about a small cap fund or something. I'm saying you're a typical large mid cap guy. Unless you just took a big call on financials.
Not on 19.
It's tough to get out at that point.
No, 19, there was no need to get out. No.
What I'm just saying roughly.
The bet has become when the HDFC, before that was doing okay. So the HDFC merger, whether it is immediately synergistic and this and that versus that this consolidation will take so long, and you don't know that the market will be unwilling to treat the two businesses separately, but say, "Arey, merge ho gaya, the margin has come down." Actually, alag both ka margin, whatever it was, is the margin.
Right.
But you see it now in a combined form. So that, how would you guess? But somebody may have done it also. We didn't.
If you're a banker, a banker should go to them and suggest a spin-off of HDFC.
Correct. Or a IPO.
Yeah, exactly. But so in fact, Dinshaw, we had spoken about this, the IPO market, when I asked you, are people set to relearn mistakes from the past?
Right.
And do you see? So it's very easy to criticize the market in some ways and say valuations are crazy and all that. But do you think this spate of IPOs was to an extent required to absorb some of the liquidity that was in the market?
No, it's not. So basically, I remember talking about this, saying that of 10 IPOs, probably there's only one which makes sense to us. The rest 9 are coming because there's an opportunity in the market to raise money. So that's how it was. And frankly, I mean, liquidity, because of the liquidity, these IPOs are coming. If the liquidity dries up, you won't see any of these guys come to the market. So it's the other way around, right?
So one of these guys has written a report as to how so many private equity, so many IPOs have to come. So whatever, billions of dollars. So how will the market handle? Can it handle 40 billion? Pata nahi jo bhi number hai.
Right.
Why there's so much analysis? If the market does not do well, none of these guys will be allowed.
Right.
They are only dreaming of IPOing because the market is doing well, which means if the market fell 20%, they will also reduce by 20%. They are not the ones being an overhang. They are taking advantage if we do well.
Correct.
So it's not independent. Ki this supply is coming now. Can you handle it or no? If we can't handle it, you're not coming. The private equity guy will postpone his plan by 2 years. The listed guy will postpone by 4 years or whatever. So these things don't matter. It's what is right. Because market is going up and IPO is coming.
Correct. And on this question of liquidity, everyone's like, whatever, forget what the number is, X crores, X billion, whatever is in the market. So how can it ever fall, all of that? But one thing, I mean, at a very fundamental level, if, suppose, let's say, argument's sake, there's $100 on the side. If tomorrow morning 100 comes in, by definition, there'll still be 100 on the side, right? Because you have the stock, I have the money. Now I buy it from you, you have the money, I have the stock.
So what they say
but
is,
barring the taxes and all that.
Taxes nahi. वो कहेंगे that the seller was a foreigner who's taken out the money and bought some other market. So therefore, it's not available when you correct because now he's involved in some other asset.
If it's FIIs, I guess, yeah.
But that's the game.
That's where the private parties are. I mean, private placements and all these, the PE guys coming and the promoters selling. Promoter selling still exists.
Promoter maybe, but the rest of the money is going if they sell, yeah.
But you think, I mean, again, just this is very contextual to where we are today, but you think people who've sold, and I mean, I'm saying FIs or whoever, will have to pay a much higher price to come back in?
I think, I don't know much higher, but 100% they will come back. Because this month, they say, $10 billion of selling in a month because they are going to China. I don't think they're going to China because China has higher value of selling this month than India, some 15 billion. Maybe it is to do with election trade that if Trump wins and there'll be tariffs, not on India as much directly first, but on China, and therefore China they're redeeming. But then Mr. Trump has also said that India is a good place to put tariffs on and all that. My bet is that that he talks for bargaining as a starting point, but now need not put all these tariffs across the board everywhere. Who knows?
Right. I want to actually get, again, like I said initially, I want to get some stories and, things that you guys have experienced. Can you think of any incidents that for some reason particularly stick out in your mind over the years? either because the person was incredible, or you saw something like, how is this allowed? How is this happening in front of our eyes? But no one is doing something about it. Or it's a very, very open-ended question. So therefore, if you need a minute to think about it, but if there's any particular incident, it could have been some anecdote incident that particularly sticks out in your mind.
We've had all kinds of episodes, and that's when we were together, from making 100 bagger to stores going to zero. So I'll tell you the zero one. So I bought $1 million of ABCL. You know what is the full form of ABCL?
Amitabh Bachchan.
Amitabh Bachchan Corporation Limited. So it was unlisted, and Kotak was the banker. And the story was that they'll make all these movies. I think they started 18 movies at the same time on the floor. And they got the rights for Miss Universe, Miss World in Bangalore.
Okay.
So we bought $1 million worth, and then there were some security issues, and they had to pay for security, police and all in Bangalore. And those 18 movies didn't get completed, and so it went to zero. But after that, I don't know when it happened that they suddenly said that KBC money is supposed to go into the company.
Oh.
But by that time, I had left Alliance. But I think it was zero. I think it never came back.
And so when you... sorry, please.
I have one where I visited one Calcutta-based company, and they had recently done a GDR of $300 million. GDR. Those times there were the GDRs.
Global Depository Receipt.
Yeah. So they had acquired one other company, international company, for 330 million pounds. They had done a 300 million pound GDR. Right? And I remember calling Samir afterwards because the management told. So I said, how does it make sense to buy this dead company for 330 million pounds? He said, no, we didn't pay 330 million pounds. We just paid 30 million pounds. I said, what? He said, yeah, 300 million you paid. What does it mean? I said, better sell this.
No. That way there's another one. This company went to zero. What is it called? EduComp. EduComp. तो उसमें क्या वो बंदा ही बता रहा था कि खराब है. Because what happened? No, he was not saying. They were just jokers. So the guy said, we sell hardware plus the software or whatever the thing, the package which goes for the education, but they also sell you the computer and the projector in the class. So I said कि margin कितना बनता है? तो कहते हैं सॉफ्टवेयर में 15% और हार्डवेयर में 5%, तो टोटल 20% बनता है. Okay, thank you very much. So now you know you don't know anything, man. You're adding the two margins. So that was the thing that many said.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it at all. I don't doubt it at all. In fact, I have I remember once I was at a conference. I met the manager of a company. It was me and one other analyst, as in from some other fund. And he knew that guy very well, because at the end he winks and he's like, boss, le. I walked. I said, never. I wish I bought dividend 30x after that. so I wish in hindsight I should have not. Yeah, I should have forgone my principles.
You got upset that he was not winking at you.
Wink at me.
It's incredible.
Gana gaya, aankh mare.
But it's fascinating hearing these examples, and I actually want to talk more on the kind of cases that you spoke of, where it's one of those things where people just they see themselves as it's like their kingdom, that they can do what they want with it. It's my money, it's not yours. But so have there been? Can you think of other cases where you looked at all the data, as in the publicly available data, said, boss looks damn good, and then you happen to meet someone and said, just because of this fellow, I'm not going to buy. This fellow meaning the management or promoter or whatever. Has that ever happened?
I've not understood. Means so everything was good.
So if you look at the balance sheet, cash flow, all
but
that.
The individual.
But there's something when you meet him, there's something in your intuition or something that he has said or done that has pushed you in the other direction.
All the time. So there are some current hot companies also which have gone up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But because we know the history, not that they met us,
right?
But we know, and the world also knows, that these promoters, nobody would give money, but when the stock price goes up, people give. So that is our only control, because we have this model that, or belief, that 150 companies do very well. So therefore, if a company is doing very well, but we know कि वो पैदाइशी चोर है, we don't have to be involved. Because according to us, there are 149 other companies, even if you do well in the market, because that is just about performance in the stock, that there are 148 others which will do well. So I can afford to leave it. That we have left all our life. I mean, in recent life, means 15, 20 years.
Right.
Because the guy who buys it, by the way, also will agree with me that this fellow is a fraud. But he will say, कि but सस्ता बड़ा है. Or he will say there's a turnaround in the sector, or there is some other company in the sector which has done very well and this guy's at a big discount. So their logic is a trade-off between these different factors.
Correct.
But purely on management, by the way, purely on whichever factor we reject, it is never the case that only we believe it. If we say that we are not buying this company because it is expensive, there's not a single guy in the country who will say it is not expensive. Because हमको हो गया number expensive है, but he will say it's good management. हम कहते हैं no, it doesn't matter. If the valuation is high, it doesn't matter to us that the management is good. Then when we say the management is chore, they will also know it's chore, but they'll say सस्ता बड़ा है. What I'm saying is, it is not that our analysis is such that on the analysis, अरे भाई, if that, for example, I keep saying to everybody that auto sector is getting disrupted. उसमें आप मेरे को disprove करके दिखा दो. But the guy who buys it will say, इस महीने बारिश आ गई है, so the numbers for next month or maybe 3 months, or maybe that the disruption is there, but it will happen after 1 year. But nobody will say to any of our factors that, wow, from where have you got this? नहीं, ये नहीं होगा.
Correct.
But he might say it doesn't matter, or that there is a counter factor.
Correct.
And we, because we've understood this one line, कि 150 companies do so well, that if we say कि this factor is bad and you throw it, and therefore you throw out 20, 30 companies extra, which end up doing well. Because first of all, you believe they won't do well.
Correct.
But if they do well, good luck. That's the game.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
Ji, thank you very much.
So Dinshaw, last time when you were on, I asked you about your entire journey, and it's a fascinating journey. I honestly had no idea that you had such an unusual route to get where you are today. And I want to take you back again to those earlier days. Do you have specific recollections of events that happened relatively early on in your career that still today, when you think about them, you laugh or maybe even cry?
No, I remember my first memory about stock markets. I mean, the exchange as such, Bombay Stock Exchange, Gigi Boytas. So I was a journalist then, and just then the reforms had started, and there was this huge run in the market, right? There was a teji, as they call it, every day, and those times there was only outcry system, right? Open outcry. The trading floor used to be on the second or third floor of Gigi Boytas. It was an open balcony actually, where they used to stand and shout out rates and stuff like that.
It was that symbol.
Yeah. So they had these pillars with numbers, which was your corners for various stocks, right? So I remember walking. So the exchange used to open at 12 and shut at 2 o'clock. Right? It was very aggressive. Shouting was needed. So it was only a 2-hour exchange. So I remember walking down around noon time on under Gigi Boytas, Dalal Street actually, and it became noon, and that was my first experience of what a market which is in a bull phase looks like, right? Suddenly there was this huge roar which just started going higher and higher and higher in decibel levels, right? And it was so huge that I had to duck. I thought, what happened? I was wondering whether there's a riot which has started in this part of the Mumbai or something. And I was looking around at people. Why aren't they reacting? They were like normal. And then I spotted this sandwich wala. So the Gigi Boytas was always lined up with these sandwich walas, right? So I looked at him and he's looking at me and saying, Teji. So that was another way of deciphering whether the market is in a bull run or a bear run. So.
It's the ultimate indicator, right? It's like those movie scenes where you see the heroes walking by the start of the movie and the Teji. Fantastic. And actually, in some ways, that world is lost right now because everyone's all over the world and you don't.
No more hear people cry, shouting out, and all. You just sit on a terminal, look at it.
Exactly. There's a guy sitting in Hong Kong somewhere pressing some buttons. he's like Teji hai. Yeah. But so we were talking about even when Samir was with us, and I don't know why, but I'm very interested. I'm more interested in stories where things didn't work out and people got away with or attempted to get away with things they shouldn't never have attempted to get away with. Can you have there been incidents that you can recall, whether it happened to you or maybe you heard about them, where somebody saw something that was in many ways contrary to what a lot of people were talking about? And so, for example, you were very bullish on something everyone else was bearish on, or vice versa. And in that situation, what it is that prodded you to go with your own conviction rather than worrying about what anyone else was thinking of?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can think of one. So basically, this was during the IT boom times, right? Everything sold. Okay. 2000s. I'm talking about early 2000s, right? And everything which had an IT or a angle to TMT or something, right?
Yeah.
What? Telecom, media, and
I'll tell you. Telecom, media, and
what was the other T? I don't remember now.
We'll edit this.
IT.
I guess technology, media, and telecom.
Technology, media, and telecom. Yeah, TMT was technology, media, and telecom. Anything to do with that used to sell, right? So one foreign broker came and told me that there's this company which I know of. They got this huge order, Disney order, and they got this $200 million. I don't remember the exact amount, but like hundreds of millions of dollars of order for animation from Disney. I said, wow, man, this is the first time I heard of it. I said, let's go and visit the company. He said, what? You want to visit the company? The price is this. It's just going to go up. I said, no, I want to visit the company and see what exactly is he doing. I mean, to get that order from Disney, because I'm sure Disney is a very quality conscious guy to give out media orders like this. So that way, animation orders rather. So he said, okay, I'll arrange for a visit. And it was a Hyderabad-based company. So a couple of weeks later, we go to that company. And by the way, by then the stock was up some 20-30%. And he says, see, I told you, you're missing out a big run on this and all that. So I said, no problem. We'll go and visit. So we went there. So he took me to this building, which was a barren building, newly constructed, right? And I'm not exaggerating. It was actually newly constructed.
Just a shell.
Just the shell types. So there were windows. So I go in and I see these people lining the building itself, and crazily dressed, like the lungis and slippers and whatnot, and they were carrying some folders in their hands and stuff like that. So I go in and I meet the promoter. He's in a room and he's telling me, first thing that he's telling me is, you see these people lining up outside? I say, yeah. He said, these are all the animators and programmers whom I'm going to hire for executing the order. Disney's order. I said, what? I was wondering, he doesn't have a laptop in front of him. There's no computer inside. He's got these people outside whom he's going to hire now. What did Disney see in this guy? That he got this order, huge order for animation of all the things, which is a high-tech thing, right? And I go out and tell this guy, I think it's all bull. I don't think there's a story. He said, no, you're missing the point. And anyway, the stock went to zero after that. So that way, we never bought.
But everybody else obviously was bullish,
just bought the story, right?
And literally the difference was you bothered going and checking.
There.
This is Theranos, right? This is literally the one guy who bothered testing whether it actually worked, realized there's nothing. It's just all nonsense. Unbelievable. And have you... I'm trying to think the correct way to frame this. Have experiences like that affected how you view the market as a whole at a philosophical level? Has it in some way made you jaded, or even at a very subconscious level, maybe that, I feel like we're doing all this as people making money, and you think about what they're actually doing, like they're almost gambling, and very often with other people's money.
Right. No, actually it is. So the only thing that I had to do was go and meet that guy, right? I don't know why others couldn't do that. They could have also done the same thing. But I think it goes back to my broking days when actually we were doing research. So I got a feeling that the buy side was becoming very complacent. That time I'm talking about, because everything, as I said, with TMT in it used to sell, right?
Yeah.
So I think they got very complacent that any company who talks about IT and is having some contract from some foreign party is going to do well. I think that was the conclusion which was made. But probably I think we were a bit more diligent on that front, I suppose. So that helped. And that actually it's a lesson for life, right? I mean, you have to ultimately go there and understand what exactly they're doing. So before taking a call on the stock or whatever. So that way,
yeah. No, well put. And I don't want to end on such a somber note. So I will ask you, for people, Samir has the luxury of, I'm saying when I say so, I mean the fund has the luxury of having a long short. But if you think of, say, the mutual fund or someone like me who's only long, right? There's no short side. Why do you remain confident of the future of India? I'm not talking about any individual stock and this stock is good and that stock is bad. But what do you, like when you look in the mirror at night, what do you say to yourself to say that don't lose hope?
So, okay. No, there's no hope.
I'm being dramatic.
So look at it this way. India last 25 years, okay? The market, I'm talking about the large cap index, which is Nifty 50, 500 also, Nifty 500 has grown at around 15, 16 odd %, 25 years, okay? INR terms, yeah? Now, earlier, and by the way, I don't think it's going to do any different in the future because our nominal growth rate, GDP growth rate is going to be around 10.5, 11 odd %. If you're talking about being the third largest economy in whatever time period that we're talking about, it has to grow at 10.5, 11 odd %, right? If that happens, which is similar to what happened in the past, I don't think the earnings growth will be different from 15, 16%. Now, the thing was that you'll say, okay, so what's so different of the next 5 years because they're going to grow at that? The fact is that we were not the fifth largest economy then, right? We weren't so huge in size that the world would look up and say, look, there's this economy which is now $5 trillion and is growing at 15%, right? That is what is exciting about us. Then the world has to come to you. There's no way. Already you're 4 trillion right now, give or take, right? If you're going to grow at 14, 15% and tell me which economy at that size grows at that level. No way. I don't think any investor worth his salt based outside would ignore India anymore. So that is what excites us. And obviously the domestic money has been fairly buoyant, I think. And frankly, according to us, the wealth effect has yet not kicked in. Once that kicks in, you'll see a bulk of the investors taking more risk because as you become wealthier, you tend to take higher risks. And obviously, equity is a risky asset. So you'll tend to come to equity as such. So that's what is the exciting part about our markets going forward.
Right. You can hate us, you can love us, but you can't ignore us, right? Well, Dinshaw, thank you so much for coming. It was fantastic having you on again. And I hope when I invite you back, you'll come again for the third time.
Sure will.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your stories. I think this is more than I hoped for, both from you and Samir. It was fantastic hearing about them. And off camera, I'll ask you for the names. But thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.